Welcome to this training on best practices for delivering feedback to youth workers. This session is designed to help you, as direct supervisors, feel more confident and effective when giving feedback to young workers, especially those ages 16 to 24. Whether you're new to supervising youth or have years of experience, this is a chance to reflect on what's working and pick up some new tools and techniques.
In today's session, we will cover what Gen Z values when it comes to feedback and best practices for feedback conversations. You'll finish this quick training with practical, ready-to-use techniques for supporting youth in a way that is clear, empathetic, and growth-focused.
As Gen Z continues to grow in the workforce, expected to make up over 32% of workers by 2032, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, supervisors have an incredible opportunity to engage, retain, and develop young talent through feedback that meets their expectations and needs.
We know from research and experience, feedback isn't just about correction, it's about connection. Gen Z workers want feedback that's frequent, brief, and ongoing. They're not waiting for annual reviews. They value regular touchpoints. One study found nearly 2/3 of young workers prefer daily or multiple check-ins per week. And most want those check-ins to be 5 minutes or less. Quick, meaningful moments that build trust and keep things on track.
Even as digital natives, Gen Z prefers face-to-face feedback. In fact, one study found that 3 out of 4 young workers would rather get feedback in person than through digital tools. They want technology to support communication, not replace it.
Gen Z expects feedback to be timely, collaborative, empathetic, and balanced. Delayed feedback, criticism without explanation, or vague correction can lead to disengagement or even turnover. They seek immediate clarity and want to understand the why, not just the what. Feedback should focus on working together to solve a problem, not blaming the individual. Conversations should be centered around noticed behaviors and solutions.
At the heart of effective feedback is trust, and that trust is built long before any difficult conversation. As Brené Brown says in Daring Greatly, trust is built in very small moments. It's like a marble jar. For every small act of kindness, honesty, or reliability, we add a marble to the jar. And over time, trust grows.
When your team knows you see their strengths and value their work, they're more open to hearing what needs improvement and more likely to act on it. That's why it's so important to make a habit of catching people doing things right and saying it out loud. When you do, your positive feedback builds trust, and that trust makes the tougher conversations easier and more productive.
We've distilled the data and direct reflections from youth into 4 key pillars for feedback delivery: timely, empathetic, collaborative, and balanced. We'll review these one by one.
First, we will discuss the importance of timely feedback. Give feedback while it's still fresh, ideally within a few hours or a day. That's when it's most useful and actionable. But don't give feedback when you're upset or off balance. Pause, breathe, and return when you're calm. Remember, you are the most important tool in any feedback conversation. Keep that tool sharp. You could say,
"Let's touch base after lunch. I'd like to talk through the last rush and share a few thoughts."
Give critical or developmental feedback in private. One-on-one conversations protect psychological safety and dignity. Aim for a moment when the person is receptive, not when they appear stressed, overwhelmed, or distracted. Asking permission shows respect and builds trust. You could say,
"Is now a good time for a quick piece of feedback, or would later this afternoon be better?"
To review, deliver feedback soon after the event, but not in the heat of the moment. In private, away from others, at a time when your staff member is receptive. Don't squeeze feedback into a rushed moment. Leave time for conversation and follow-up questions to confirm understanding. Avoid giving feedback when you're angry, upset, or haven't gathered your thoughts, or when your young staff member is stressed, tired, or under pressure. Avoid giving constructive feedback to one person when you are in front of others, or when it's too far removed from the event and loses its relevance.
Let's discuss the importance of an empathetic approach. An empathetic approach to feedback means keeping it private and respectful. Young people are more receptive when they are not around peers. One-on-one conversations create a space where they can actually hear you, not just react. Approach the conversation from a supportive place rather than a punitive one. Be mindful of your positional power and use this as an opportunity to share power by creating a learning moment. You might say something like,
"I know you're doing your best. I just want to talk through a few strategies that could help things go smoother next time."
This keeps the tone constructive and shows you're on the same team. Focus on understanding. Assume good intent and ask for their perspective before jumping in to correct or critique. You will often learn something that helps you coach more effectively. Try saying,
Can we talk about what your thought process was and where things might have gone off track?
just make sure to genuinely listen after asking. Your response should come from what you hear, not just what you plan to say.
A collaborative approach keeps the focus on behavior, not the person. Separate who they are from what they did. Avoid general feedback. It's hard to act on. Be clear, be specific, and share examples whenever you can. For example, instead of saying,
"You're not paying attention.
you could try saying,
I noticed a few orders went out without being double-checked, and that led to some mistakes. Let's figure out how we can make that final review part of your regular routine.
instead of saying,
You're unreliable.
you could try saying,
You've been arriving after your scheduled start time, which leaves gaps in team coverage. Let's find what's causing it and how to keep you on schedule.
instead of saying,
You're bad at communication.
you could try saying,
The tone in your email to the client came across a bit abrupt. Let's look at how we can make it sound clearer and more professional next time.
orient around coaching rather than criticism. Provide direction and support, focusing on how to improve, not just what went wrong. Sometimes this is an opportunity to reinforce a training guide or a checklist that might have gotten lost. Be solution-oriented and invite their input about what would make them more confident with the task in the future. Check for understanding and encourage questions to make sure you're aligned. Lastly, close the loop. If you don't circle back after giving feedback, it can feel transactional or incomplete. Be sure to acknowledge the improvements you notice. This not only reinforces the behavior change, it builds trust and motivation.
A balanced approach recognizes what's working by acknowledging strengths and effort. Even small wins deserve recognition. It shows you're paying attention. If you are noticing on-time arrivals, let them know you recognize their time management skills. If you notice consistency with meeting deadlines, let them know their attention to detail is showing. Be intentional about timing. Positive feedback should be given on its own, not just as a lead into criticism. Praise stops feeling genuine when it only shows up, followed by a but. It is important to set and reinforce clear expectations. Don't assume they remember or fully understand what's expected. Affirm your confidence in their ability to meet expectations by saying something like,
I know this task is challenging, and I also know you are capable of handling it well.
Lastly, young workers often interpret feedback, especially critical feedback, as a sign of failure or that they're in trouble. As a supervisor, it's helpful to reframe mistakes as part of learning, not a catastrophe. Instead of letting a youth worker spiral after a mistake, you could try saying,
This is something we can fix and learn from. You're not expected to get everything perfect right away.
This approach helps build resilience and confidence, reinforces a growth mindset, and helps keep the feedback conversation productive and grounded. If this video inspired a shift in how you approach giving feedback, and you see a positive impact in your workplace, we'd love to hear about it. Thank you so much for tuning in, and your commitment to supporting emerging adults in your workplace.